Well, what do you know? I got me a video response. So let's do this.
So you're expressing your frustration and your desire to understand what people are saying when they say there is some other way of either, there isn't just belief and non-belief. There is this neutral state of, where none of those apply. And of course you were venting your frustration as saying, what? If you don't believe, you don't believe. You can't get around that.
Yeah, that's more or less it. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the only way to do neither of those is to die, where the self no longer exists because the brain no longer functions. Of course, some people tried to say, well, that just means that you really, really, really don't believe, and I can see where they're coming from, but I figure, if someone really wants a null state, I think death pretty much covers it. That's the only possible way to get one.
And I understand where you're coming from on this, but from my own perspective, I would say the issue with at least calling babies, which something that I know you're famous for, calling babies atheists, I would call it an issue of, I would say it's an issue of misattribution, or to state it more directly, inappropriate attribution. I'm saying it's inappropriate to apply the term atheist to a baby, given the context of which we use the word.
Which, I'm sorry, is horseshit. Because you see, you're arguing for a colloquial definition of atheist. You're arguing for a common use definition of atheist. I'm arguing from a technical standpoint, not a common use standpoint. I'm talking about what actually is, not what makes people comfortable, not the way they prefer to use the word, not how it feels to them, but what it actually means. And what atheist actually means is not a theist, which babies are not. So they are not theists, they are atheists. If you don't like that, if that makes you uncomfortable, if you feel that's inappropriate, get over it. Because that's the truth.
And in linguistics, if you ever care to, research or study linguistics someday, you will find out that the context in which you use a word and the way it's communicated is very important, because that's what linguistics is about. It's about communicating, and effectively communicating, and understanding the context of the words in which you are communicating.
And I've laid out the context in which I'm using these words many times, in many videos, and yet somehow it never seems to get through to people. Somehow they never seem to go, oh, okay, BionicDance is going to be using these words these ways for the purposes of her video. I will discard my colloquial common use definition of the word atheist and use the more technical version because that's what she's going to be using in this context. Nobody ever does that. No, they insist on playing by their rules in my playground. You see how I might decide that's not going to work for me, right? You see how I might be like, why can't you people get a clue? I say, no, here's what the word means. Here's a link to the definition of the word being used that way. This is how we're discussing it. You say context is important. I provide the context in my videos, and yet people refuse to use it. And now here you are telling me that I gotta pay attention to context? I'm starting to think maybe, I don't get no respect over here. You know what I'm saying?
Definitionally, linguistically, semantically, however you want to put it, you are correct. Babies fall under the category of atheist if you strictly say atheist is just simply lack of belief in God. Definitionally, semantically, linguistically, you are correct.
And that's all you gotta say, I'm correct. I am technically correct, the best kind of correct. And now, we'll have some commonality of language, some commonality of definitions. We'll be communicating. When I speak to you, I'll be speaking to you. When you speak to me, you'll be speaking to me, instead of talking past each other. Come on over to my side. It's comfy over here. We got waffles. You'll have a good time. Trust me.
But therefore, you could also be correct in saying that babies are dumb, given that a definition of dumb is a mere lack of intelligence.
No. Babies are not dumb. They're not stupid. You will say later that they are ignorant, and with that I agree. There's no judgment call in that. They lack information, which is what ignorant means. Technically. I mean, hell, they're still getting used to seeing more of the world than just the inside of some lady's naughty bits. They're still getting used to the idea of, whoa, these are attached to me, and I can make them do things, wow. But they're not stupid. They're still just learning to apply the smarts they've got. So no, babies are not stupid. I take issue with that notion.
But you call someone dumb as a derogatory, or as a way of being derogatory towards somebody. It's technically an insult. And so, technically you would be right in saying a baby's dumb, definitionally, strictly definitionally, but it's inappropriate to call a baby dumb. You go, come on. If I come up and go and say, ma'am, your baby's dumb, they say, oh, come on, man, it's a baby.
Alright, let's forget the part where you're wrong about babies being stupid, because they're not, and you are wrong. But let's assume for the moment that that is the case, and that people definitely do find the term dumb or stupid to be derogatory. Of course they do. I mean, no one wants to be thought that way. It means you're deficient in a way that most people would not appreciate being called, because it means you have less ability than other people. It means that you are in fact deficient, and no one likes that. So, let's assume that. Well, if you don't use the word, does that mean that it's no longer the case? Are we going to be burying our heads in the sand, only looking at the world through rose-tinted glasses? Is that what we're going to be doing now? Are we going to be saying, don't hurt me, bro, it's a scary world out there? Is that what we're going to be doing from now on? 'Cause I'm not. And when I use the term atheist, I mean the technical definition. I mean someone who does not believe in a deity. And I realize that there are people out there who want to mean not like a denier, someone who rejects a deity. And they want to see it as, someone who's hellbound, who's a heathen or whatever, a betrayer of some kind. Well, tough. Part of why I'm here is to make the technical definition the common use definition. Part of why I'm here is to let people know that atheists are not what they think. And they are going to have to change their definition. Like it or not, the common use definition is wrong. And it does not describe the world as it actually is. You yourself said that I am technically correct. That the way I use the word atheist does describe the world as it actually is. So why should we use any other word? Just because it makes people feel bad? Just because it's used to hurt people? Well, I mean, come on. There are plenty of movements out there where there were derogatory terms that have been taken back. Lesbian. I call myself a dyke. Sure I do. That's a term that used to be used to hurt people. Guess what? It's a term of pride now. Yeah. Well, I'm an atheist. Term of pride. Yeah. Because I'm someone who looks at the world, doesn't see evidence of a deity, doesn't believe in one. I'm someone who looks at anybody who doesn't believe in a deity, regardless of the reason they don't believe, and says that person is also an atheist. Because that's all that's necessary to be an atheist, is to not be a theist, to not believe. And that's it. And if you can't handle that, if you can't handle that that's looking at the world the way it actually is instead of the way you want it to be, or looking at it through those rose-tinted glasses, if you can't handle that, if the world's too scary for you, and you have to go doing this tap dance around what the word means, tough. Get over it.
The problem, the reason people are throwing in this, this suggesting this neutral state of affairs is because of the way we typically understand the word atheist, or believing and not believing, because a baby does not have the choice.
That's it? I mean, that's really it? Is just they don't like it because of how they colloquially use a term? That's really it? I mean, I was honestly hoping, maybe I was giving them too much credit, but I was honestly hoping that there was more to it than that. I was honestly hoping that they could describe this third state to me somehow. That somehow they could say, well, here's believing, here's not believing, and we recognize that a baby, obviously cannot believe in something it's never heard of, but it's actually in this third state that you achieve by... And I was hoping there was more to it than that. I really was. I mean, I can't even picture what this third state would be because honestly, I don't think it exists. But I was hoping that someone somewhere could describe it to me. But it sounds to me like what you're saying is that it's reality denial because it makes them uncomfortable, because they think it's inappropriate to apply non-belief or disbelief or however you want to call it to a baby. And therefore, they're somehow chickening out from describing the world as it actually is. I thought there was more to it than that. And right now, I'm trying really hard not to facepalm because it'll come out the back of my head. That's really all there is to it.
Yeah, that's really all I have to say. Take care.
Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance, swallowing bile. Please take the time to rate this video. And hey, if you dig what I do, subscribe. And please visit my Zazzle store, where you'll find all kinds of BionicDance merchandise. Vote me down and I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.